everybody, it's Jackson Fulcher here. I hope you guys have been enjoying your holiday season. I know I have. So now it's time to do the best films of the year and also the worst films of the year. This video is going to be about the best though. We're going to recap all the films that I've talked about before on this channel and also some movies that I haven't had time to really talk about. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to try next year to be a little bit more consistent with my reviews, try to get more out there. I know it's been a little lacking this year, so I'm going to try to make up for it in 2019. But with that being said, I have seen a lot of movies this year that I just haven't been able to review. If you look at my 2018 movie review playlist, it says only 66 videos. I've actually seen 171 movies that were released this year, which is like the most movies I've ever seen in an entire year before. Like, wow. Like, it's a new personal best for me. So there's a lot of movies to talk about in this video. So let's go over some of my honorable mentions here because there are quite a few. Blockers, Ghost Stories, Paddington 2, Game Night, Blind Spotting, Green Book, 8th Grade, The Night Comes for Us, Roma, Creed 2, A Simple Favor, First Reformed, Annihilation, Sicario, Day of the Soldado, Cam, and finally, The Clove Hitch Killer. There are some of these honorable mentions that I really wanted to get on my top 20, but there's just 20 other films that I really ended up loving for this entire year. Like I said, I've seen a lot of movies, and there are a lot of movies that I really love, which is why I had to extend the list from top 10, top 15 to top 20. I felt it was the most appropriate to do that. And once again, just a quick reminder, I know you all know this, but this is not me trying to say these are the definitive best films of the year. This is just my personal opinion. Everyone makes their list to just discuss how they felt about the year, to recap, to reflect on everything that's going on. So with that being said, let's get started with number 20. I really liked Wes Anderson's last stop-motion film, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Isle of Dogs is just another fantastic stop-motion film for him. I hope he makes another one at some point because his eye for animation is just quite stellar. The cinematography in this film, the character design, the artwork, it's just all so beautiful to watch, and all of the characters are just so fun and quirky in the Wes Anderson kind of way that it's just hard not to get so invested with them. I was really invested with the Bryan Cranston character of this film. I was really going along with the dog friends like Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum. Like, all those guys are just so fun to watch, to carry this film and the quirky kind of humor that Wes Anderson kind of has. And overall, it's just a fantastically beautiful animated film that I don't think got enough recognition, mainly because stop motion is an art form that not too many people appreciate, which is very unfortunate. Upgrade is one of the most unique action films I've ever seen. Leigh Whannell, I've been impressed with some of his other works before, but this is one of his best ever. Like, the direction, the editing of the action sequences alone is just, it's something to really admire about the guy. And I hope he gets to make more films in the future or another action movie kind of like this or something like that, because he's got a really great eye for that. Like, there's so much awesome action sequences in this movie that have stuck with me for a very long time. Logan Marshall Green, this is my favorite performance with him. He's such a good character. The way his character and the robot STEM interact with each other was very good, and I love the dark turns that this film took, because it could have been very easy for them to do something that's kind of safe or to just kind of ruin the story in that way, but they took those dark chances and it made the more memorable experience. It made me love the film even more upon its conclusion. Sorry to Bother You is a very required taste. It's not going to be for everyone, but I really love this movie. It's got one of my favorite screenplays of the entire year. It's a really brilliant kind of workplace satire, and I think Lakeith Stanfield did a very good job playing the main character in this film. Boots Riley's direction is quite stellar. This movie takes a very weird turn later on, but I think if you take a moment to reflect on it, like think about what it represents, I think you will be able to just kind of accept it. That's kind of how I was. Like, it took me a bit because it was like a really jarring thing, but I was able to accept it rather quickly, and I got more invested with the story that Boots Riley was telling. Overall, it was a very well-written film, well-directed, well-acted. Armie Hammer is so fantastic here. It's like such an entertaining performance from him. I did not expect that at all from him. He's so good. 14 years in the making, Incredibles 2 was almost as good as the first Incredibles film. It really does recapture that same magic that the first Incredibles has as far as the family dynamics go, the musical score by Michael Giacchino, and also the thrilling, exciting action sequences that rival certain live action sequences, like the train chase involving Elastigirl. That scene alone is honestly one of my favorite action scenes of the entire year, and it's in an animated film. It still captures that same excitement that you'd feel in a regular movie, which really does prove how far animated films can go to get you to connect with all the characters and also its story and themes. I think everyone can kind of agree that the villain, it's not up to par with Syndrome from the first movie, but aside from that one issue, I really do think Incredibles 2 captured what I loved about the first movie and brought it back and added in some new elements to make it more interesting, to expand the universe. I haven't seen John Krasinski's more smaller directed films. This is my first John Krasinski directed film, and he blew me away, man. This movie has some of the most suspenseful horror sequences I've seen all year. Poor Emily Blunt, I felt so bad for her in this movie, but it just really makes her the better character. Her performance is just so good, and you feel so bad for her throughout, because she has the baby on the way, but she has to stay silent, but the monsters are lurking in, and you have this just so much tension throughout this entire film that John Krasinski really directed well, and I was not expecting that because I like him as an actor, but, you know, thinking about the smaller films that he's done, you wouldn't think that that would translate well to like this bigger horror movie, but it worked really well. And although A Quiet Place 2 isn't necessarily needed, I'm all for it just because John Krasinski is still involved creatively. Like the ending of this film, some might say it's abrupt, but I thought it was a perfect place to end this film on. If they want to continue from there, perfectly fine with me. First Man surprisingly isn't getting as much praise as I thought. It's getting praise, of course, like it's a technical marvel throughout. Damien Chazelle does a wonderful job. It's scored very well by Justin Hurwitz. Claire Foy is fantastic, but I don't think a lot of people are appreciating Ryan Gosling like they should. Like, I really loved him in this film. Yes, he is a little bit more reserved, but number one, that's how Neil Armstrong actually was in real life, more quiet and reserved to himself. But also, what they explain about his character, some of the tragedies he's had to face, those tragedies kind of explain why he is the way he is, and there's one scene in particular where he breaks down and lets everything out, but that's when he's all alone. Whenever he's with people, with his family, with friends, he always just kind of closes off his emotions and doesn't let anyone in that much, and I found that character just really fascinating. Like, I wasn't able to relate to Neil Armstrong before, because there's no way I could connect to that bravery that he had, being on this mission that you weren't certain of coming back from, but the way they portrayed him in this film, there was actually something I could connect to, and it made me really respect the man a lot more. Widows is another one that I don't think is getting as much appreciation as it should. A lot of people really loved it, but financially it didn't do that well. I wish more people did go see this film because Steve McQueen and Gillian Flynn crafted something very riveting and very shocking at a couple points. There's a couple twists that they put in that I was like genuinely surprised at, and I was like, I can't believe that they actually did this, but here it is, and it's just so riveting. I was so into the movie that I was up for anything. I wanted the movie to go on even longer, if I'm being entirely honest. Steve McQueen does an excellent job directing this film. Like, when you get to those heist moments, like, it's very suspenseful, and also you have a great cast to work with this script and translate it so well. Viola Davis is so captivating, and Elizabeth Debicki really impressed me in this. Colin Farrell is as good as usual, and also Daniel Kaluuya, one of my favorite performances from him other than Get Out, because he completely transformed himself. I don't even see his character from Get Out anymore. I just see this completely dangerous dude who has some of the most memorable scenes of this entire year, some scenes that might go down in like crime drama history as far as being so well filmed and well acted. It's that good, and I wish more people did go see this movie. Hopefully some people still go see it now, at least, now that I'm talking about it a little bit more. Similar to Sorry to Bother You, Suspiria is not going to be for everyone. That's very obvious. It is a remake of a Dario Argento film, and I think this movie actually improved upon that film, though that's a little iffy comparison because aside from the fact that it involves these ballet dancers and something else going on under the surface, there's not a whole lot that's similar. This movie really is a reimagining in every sense of the word. It's not really a direct remake, it is basically taking that setup of the original and making something totally new. And I think Luca Guadagnino did an excellent job directing this film, and there's just so much creepiness to it. Like, after I saw the movie, it just got under my skin and wouldn't let up for so long. Like, that's how invested I was with this film. Dakota Johnson has had such a year. There's another movie I'll mention soon later on the list, but she was really good in this movie. Mia Goth was really good. Tilda Swinton is like the MVP, playing like 3 different people in this film, which that's gotta be worth something, you know? Like, she was so fantastic here. Everything about this film is what a horror film should be. Unnerving, unsettling, but still investing, and you want to find out more about what's going on. I couldn't get enough of this film. Honestly, it's 2.5 hours, but I didn't feel it drag once. I didn't know anything about the real-life Ron Stallworth, so watching this film, I was shocked throughout with some of the stuff that he actually did, and I was just so on the edge of my seat whenever they had to interact with the Klan. Like, this is such a riveting film, but Spike Lee really pulled it off. He crafted something really special here. John David Washington, I want him to be in more movies. He's just so excellent here, and I loved him. Adam Driver, he's good in everything, so no surprise there. There's a guy in the Klan who's got to be basically like this grimy, dirty, disgusting man, but he pulled it off so well that it was genuinely unsettling. An underrated performance from that guy. And also Topher Grace, another guy that I think is getting really underappreciated with his performance, is David Duke, who, when you listen to him talk, it's like, well, he just seems very calm, very collected. Then as soon as he starts going into those speeches, you're like, oh no, like, this is, I totally misrepresented you before. You were insane. But I think Topher Grace really pulled off that performance very well, and has an ending that was controversial, but I don't know why. I don't know why the ending is so controversial, because you see a lot of biopics like this where it's like, yeah, but that was a long time ago and now we're ending on a happy note, everything's better. But Spike Lee was like, no, there's still actually a lot of bad stuff going on, and we need to address this instead of acting like it was so long ago it's so behind us, because it's really not. And it's one of the most bold endings of the year, and I felt sick to my stomach while watching it, but that's exactly the reaction that Spike Lee was going for, and I loved it. I'm so glad he made that choice. I've seen Yorgos Lanthimos' 2 most recent films, Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster. I've liked both of them, but the favorite is easily my favorite out of the ones he's made that I've seen. Like, it is so fantastically well written and so well directed. The cinematography here is gorgeous. The set design, the costumes, the makeup, it's so authentic, it's so good. But the big thing about this movie, the 3 main actresses, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman especially, these 3 women kill it in this movie. It's hard for me to really pick a favorite performance from them, because they all collectively kind of steal the movie together. Like, not one of them steals it over the other or anything. Like, they're all just so equally fantastic, and you can't get enough of these characters. This movie at times can get really dark and really sadistic, and it ends in a really dark place too that kind of makes you feel a little miserable, but at the same time, this movie is also really funny. It is such a perfect kind of dark comedy film that I really love. There are moments where I felt terrible, but then I started to laugh, and it started to make me feel more entertained. And another thing I wanted to address really quickly, Nicholas Hoult, seriously, so underappreciated. His performance is so good. I loved him every second of his screen time. Like, I couldn't get enough of the dude. He's just so good. He's really embracing this character that he's gotten, and I love it. It is so good. I hope he gets some recognition for it. There are 4 versions of this film, yet somehow Bradley Cooper was able to still make me emotionally affected by this film. This is such a beautiful film. It's got some fantastic songs in there, some excellent performances from Lady Gaga. Sam Elliott, he's so good here. He's got such a great sombering supporting role, but the thing that impressed me the most, and I know a lot of people talked about Lady Gaga, but Bradley Cooper, man, not just because he can sing well, apparently, and he can direct a movie well, but he also he disappeared. I did not see him. I just saw Jackson Maine, his character, and even though I've seen this version of a character multiple times before, he was still able to make me root for this character and make me think, like, maybe things are going to be okay for him, like, I'm really rooting for him. And when you can make me forget about the plot lines of the other 3 versions of this film, that's filmmaking magic right there, and I hope Bradley Cooper has a bright future in directing, because he killed it. This is his directorial debut, killed it. Searching is one of the most thrilling films of the entire year, and it takes place on a laptop screen. What the frick? And I guess that makes it the best movie taking place on a laptop ever, pretty much. John Cho has an excellent performance here. You really connect with his father desperately searching for his daughter. You're with him the whole way through. Deborah Messing as the police officer character, very good, much more to do than I ever expected a police officer character to have, but she really killed it. And I really just loved how this movie got me so invested, and I was just so invested with the creative mystery of this film that there are moments where I just audibly kind of went, yes, or ah, no, or ah, you know, like I was audibly reacting to the film in the theater. And that kind of proves how invested I was with the film. The fact that something I never really do when I'm in a movie theater, just audibly kind of react to it. That automatically kind of bumps it up there on my list. Mary Poppins Returns gave me a joy that can only be found in a fantastic musical like this. Rob Marshall did a very good job recapturing that spirit of the original Mary Poppins to the point where it feels like it's hard to believe that this film came out now. Like, it feels like almost an instant classic. Every single musical number I thought was very good. They didn't have to rely on the other songs from the original film. They made their own version, and I love them for it. Lin-Manuel Miranda killed it in all of them, but Emily Blunt, she also kills it as Mary Poppins. Even though she didn't watch the original to study Julie Andrews' performance, she just read the book, she still perfectly captured the mannerisms of Mary Poppins, and that to me is so impressive. She's had quite a year, Emily Blunt. This and A Quiet Place, like she's such a fantastic actress, and she's picking so many great movies, and I'm so happy for her. This movie is just another great one for her. There's so many other great performances in this, like from Ben Whishaw, who genuinely got me to cry only 15 minutes into the movie. What the heck is that all about? And the kids, not only did they manage to be a little different than the original kids in the first movie, but they also got me to care about them, and they actually had good child performances. There's so much greatness about this film, the cinematography, score, choreography, costumes, acting, singing, everything. I walked out of this film smiling just ear to ear, just this joy of musical joy that I rarely feel. I originally gave Avengers Infinity War an A-, but after seeing it about 5 times now this year, maybe 4 or 5, I bumped that up to an A for sure, a very strong A. This movie is the culmination of 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it really pays off. Can't wait for Endgame. Thanos is a beast, and I love him. Josh Brolin did an excellent job portraying this character that could have just been, you know, just a maniacal villain wants to wipe out everything, but they really did add that humanity to him, that you were just like, oh my god, like, am I actually seeing a villain who actually has feelings in a Marvel movie? Are you kidding me? But it worked out so well. The entire ensemble did a very good job. Benedict Cumberbatch had more to do than I expected, but I loved that. Robert Downey Jr. just once again killing it. And Tom Holland in his standout scene that has been memed to death at this point. Love him in that. There's so much to discuss about this film as far as its action sequences, its direction, Alan Silvestri's score. There's a lot to talk about that I've already kind of talked about in my review, so I'll just leave it at that. It's amazing. You Were Never Really Here is a movie that not too many people saw, and I can understand that because it's more indie film, but Joaquin Phoenix in this film really impressed me, and this is his movie. You focus on him throughout the hour, 20-minute runtime. It's a short movie, and I was never bored, but I never felt like it was going by too quickly. It's a very fascinating character study for this dude, and it legitimately made me feel a lot in here, and by the time the movie ends, it's such a depressing, it's just such a depressing movie, but it ends on like the slightest bit of hope after you get just this really dark shot beforehand. It's such an emotionally moving kind of movie, and I don't want to say too much else about it. Like, please go check it out. It's definitely one of my favorites of this year for sure. I wasn't really expecting that much from Love, Simon. I just kind of saw the trailers. I was like, okay, that's an interesting take on a comedy film. But when I actually finally watched the movie, at a certain point I was just getting so entertained and so invested with all the characters and the story. And then about like an hour in, there was still like 30-40 minutes left of the movie, I started crying, and then throughout the remainder of the film, those last 30-40 minutes, I just kept crying. Like, my eyes were still wet, I couldn't wipe them away. This is the movie that made me cry the most this entire year. which is shocking to me because I did not expect that going in, but this movie really stuck with me, man. Nick Robinson, easily his best performance. I want to see more performances like this from him. Not Jurassic World, he's so good here as Simon, and it's his performance that made me really connect to him overall. His friend group is also really good. Even the high school villain of this movie, I didn't get annoyed by. Usually I am because they act too over the top, but this guy, the way they kind of treat the villain is just, he's not necessarily all that bad, just he's very nerdy and dorky, and he's going about things the wrong way, but he doesn't really see it as that wrong right now. Like, it's hard to explain without spoiling it, because if you haven't seen it, please do, because it's such a special movie. But I really just like the way everything was kind of handled in this, and it connected to me so much, and I loved it. I loved it. Mission Impossible Fallout is one of the best action movies ever made. This is easily the best Mission Impossible film. Tom Cruise, what a man, dedicated to literally every stunt he ever does. Simon Pegg had a good role in this, Rebecca Ferguson did, Alec Baldwin, Henry Cavill was actually excellent in this. That one fight scene with him and Tom Cruise near the end of the film is so unnerving, and the entire third act pretty much I was just kind of clenched to my seat, like sweating buckets, and I just love the way McQuarrie just has you on the edge of your seat all the way up till like literally the last second where you think, oh no, but then you're like, oh thank God. It's like, he's such a fantastic action director, and I can't wait to see what else he does in the future. I know he's doing Top Gun Maverick right now, and I hope that's as good as I'm wanting it to be, because this is one of my favorite action movies ever, and I'd love to see Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise kind of continue on that legacy of making some of the best action movies out there. Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse is my favorite animated film this year. It's also my favorite Spider-Man movie ever made. I love this film so much for its humor, for its heart also, but for its wicked animation style. Like, this is one of the most visually impressive animated films, or just films in general, like I've ever seen. Who would have guessed that the geniuses behind the Emoji Movie would push the boundaries of animation even further? Like, that's outstanding to me, and I already loved the Emoji Movie, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse just did something with the animation format that I've never seen before, and that alone, I appreciate it so much for that. Bad Times at the El Royale, I walked out really inspired as a writer. I love the way Drew Goddard wrote this in a non-linear kind of way, and I love how the characters were all written, I love how they interacted, and I like the way all the storylines were treated. I was literally not really disappointed in any aspect of this film, writing-wise, directing-wise, score-wise. Michael Giacchino does another good score. The acting is all superb. Chris Hemsworth, my god, he's so good here. But also Jeff Bridges, this is a really good performance from him. And Dakota Johnson, this might be my favorite performance from her, actually. I liked her a lot in this film. Cynthia Erivo really stole the show in a lot of points, and so did Louis Pullman. This movie is actually a really fantastic ensemble piece that I don't think is going to get a lot of recognition, which sucks, because this is actually like a very well-directed movie, one of my favorite screenplays of the entire year. I love so much about this movie, and I know a lot of people don't share that same sentiment, but I can't help it. Like, I love this. This is a movie that really connected to me, and I even saw it again twice, and I loved it even more, pretty much. But what could top Bad Times at the El Royale to be my favorite film of the year? Well, number one is... When Hereditary finished, I had feelings of The Shining again, and if you don't know, The Shining is my favorite horror film ever made. Hereditary gave me Shining feelings, and that was outstanding to me. I have not had similar feelings of The Shining with like any other horror film ever, so this was a very unique experience for me. It was so well made. Ari Aster, please make more movies. I know he's got one coming out in 2019, but I want to make sure that he's going to keep making movies for as long as possible, as long as he creatively can, because he's got such a great creative talent. Like, I'm watching this film and I'm like, this is something that I would love to do. He's inspiring me even more to make a horror movie kind of like this. You'd think he's been making movies forever, but this is his first feature-length movie, and it's shocking to me that that is. And also, Toni Collette, oh my god, she is so superb in this movie. Not only the best female performance of the entire year, but the best performance of the entire year. She kills it in this movie. And also Alex Wolff as the supporting actor, he was really good here. He surprised me a lot because I didn't really think that much of him before, but I really liked him in this movie. The way they portray his character, the way they portray the whole family, I love. Millie Shapiro, they did some stuff with her character that I was not expecting, but I love so much. And even Gabriel Byrne, I like the way they treated his character. A lot of people complain about his dad character, but I honestly understood what Ari Aster was going for as far as going like, not all families are perfect, and this family in particular, while all this terrible stuff is happening, they've been disjointed before this also, and the problems are only getting worse because of their new situation. I just really loved it. In the third act, I have not bitten my nails so much during a movie in a very long time. All the way up to the very end, I was shocked, I was riveted, hands clenched to the armrest of my chair. I was super into this. It's got great cinematography, a fantastic score from Colin Stetson. If you somehow haven't seen Hereditary yet, please do. It's so fantastically well made. That's why it's my favorite film of the entire year. It's just an achievement in horror filmmaking, and filmmaking in general, in acting, in screenplays. It's like, I love it. I can't sing Hereditary's praises enough. Even if you watch it a second time, there might be some other stuff that you can pick up on. You'll be like, oh, that's nice foreshadowing. So those are my top 20 favorite films of the entire year. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'll see you guys soon for my top 20 worst. Gotta keep it balanced, of course. So, of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.